There'll be spectacle, there'll be fantasy, there'll be daring do and stuff like you would never see.
Be a movie. Yeah, we're gonna be a movie.
Starring everybody
and me. There'll be heroes bold, there'll be comedy, and a lot of fuss that ends for us real happily.
Be a movie.
We can watch it all develop.
Starring everybody
and me. We'll take the world and set it on its ear.
Come on, join in. We're gonna start right here.
And we are going to start right here. Hello, and welcome to a Radulich Broadcasting premiere podcast, Triple Feature. I'm the host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And on the marquee tonight are 3 black and white films because everything on this podcast has to have a theme. So we are all, and they're also award-winning or award-nominated films possibly going to be appearing at this year's Oscars, and we're continuing with that trend. So tonight on the marquee is Belfast from Kenneth Branagh, Passing from Rebecca Hall, and Come On by Mike Mills.
There's only 2 come-ons in that actual title, folks.
And correcting me as usual, joining me tonight is the woman who inspired me to do some Oscar podcasts, so that we're not just competing amongst the other zillion other podcasts talking about Marvel and Star Wars. Ladies and gentlemen, from Honeysuckle Rose Creations, Alexis Hejna. How do you do, madam?
Doing good. Yep, I'm the one that said, hey, is there a reason we're not actually talking about Oscar bait so then we have something to follow the trending hashtags in February and March?
Yep. And, lo a year later, it's like, hey, Alexis, I've got 5 of these you're going to do. And she went, oh, fuck my life.
Yeah, pretty much, especially after I have to watch 3 black and white films in a row. And I like black and white films. I have several on DVD. By the third one of these, I had fallen asleep.
Yeah, as I said to you in the chat, I said, these are all great films. And I think maybe, one and then take a break, go back and try it again would have been fine. Watch them maybe as they were coming out. 3 in a row is a marathon. And by the end of it, you're like, anyone gonna know got a good Star Wars I could watch? Any Marvel movies?
Yeah, it's like by the end of this, all I can think is, my God, just let me go back to playing Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach. I need something different.
But these are some pretty wonderful films, and we're gonna break them down here. So let's get started with Belfast. So real quick, had you heard before I mentioned it, or before I was kind of perusing through the list of possible Oscar nominees, did you know what Belfast was?
A little bit. This is one of the only 3 that was actually put out at the local theater, so I'd seen the posters and such. Passing, of course, is a Netflix only, and Come On, I had never even heard of until you suggested it, but I had seen the poster for this. I had seen Kenneth Branagh's name attached, so I was able to put 2 and 2 together. I am a big fan of Kenneth Branagh's films. I love his style. I think he is an amazing director. I'm glad that this time he is actually able to have Judi Dench not look like a complete embarrassment like she did in Artemis Fowl.
I don't know if you've seen it yet, but my favorite Judi Dench. This actress deserves better moment is Cats, because I don't know if you know this or not, but cats are not dogs.
Okay. So I used to host a bad movie night with my friends where we would riff movies. And when Cats came out, all I can think is, this is going to be the next one. And then guess what happened shortly after Cats hit theaters?
COVID?
Yeah. And I still haven't been able to get the bad movie night going since then. And it doesn't help that I have a very out of control Labrador here who tends to scare away some of my guests.
That would make for a fun alternative commentary.
Yeah, so I basically said I am refusing to watch Cats until I've got friends here. We have copious amounts of alcohol or some other controlled substance, and then we can just enjoy the hell out of riffing on this movie. I will not watch it any other way.
I took my daughter to it, and she was at the time she had to have been 9 or 10. And she had a good time with it, but I'm watching this thing, and I do remember thinking to myself, like, how did this get past an executive and get put into theaters with a major reshoots? But anyway, we're not here to talk about Cats or their bungholes. We're here to talk about a real fun subject matter, the ongoing 30-year battle between the Catholics and the Protestants in Northern Ireland.
Yes, as they call it, the Troubles.
Yes.
The Troubles in Northern Ireland. It was kind of
how very British, the Troubles.
Well, it was a very weird time. It wasn't necessarily religiously fueled. It was more or less between like Northern Ireland and the rest of Ireland about whether or not they were going to remain part of the UK or not. But the animosity just spilled over and gave fuel to pretty much whatever you wanted to be upset about, you were going to be upset about. So the main struggle was not Catholic versus Protestant, but that really did push it.
I know that the Troubles in Northern Ireland gave rise, I think, to like the major use of the car bomb. I'd read a book about that years ago. That like that's that got perfected in that era. The other thing that I always think about is Eddie Izzard making the joke about the end of the Troubles, where he's doing two different Irish guys arguing over if you would just put down your guns, we could finally have some peace. Okay, well we'll put down the guns as soon as you do, and they
pretty much. It was a very weird, very ugly time.
Sure.
So I did really like this. This is also an interesting film because it's not completely black and white. We have several scenes in color. Firstly, it opens in color showing modern day Belfast and then switches to black and white to show the past.
Right.
We also have a couple of scenes where the characters go to the movies or to the theater and what they see on the screen is in color.
Yeah, it was an. We'll get to the craft review in just a second, but you're all right. This was an interesting use of color and contrast and paletting and whatnot. The film chronicles the life of a working-class Northern Irish Protestant family from the perspective of their 9-year-old son, Buddy, during the Troubles in Belfast, Northern Ireland. Buddy's father, Pa, works overseas in England, while the family, Ma, elder brother Will, and paternal grandparents, Granny and Pop, live in Belfast. On August 15th, 1969, a group of Protestants stage a riot on Buddy Street. This is within the first 2 minutes of the film, attacking homes to intimidate the local Catholics. In response, the townspeople set up a barricade on the street to prevent their return, and Pa returns home from England to check up on the family's well-being. The family attends church where the minister delivers a harsh fork-in-the-road speech, something along the lines of what we saw in Midnight Mass.
No kidding. That minister, it's like, forget the car bomb. That minister was the scariest thing in this movie. Did you see the way he was sweating? It was terrifying.
The rhetoric is continually reflected upon by Buddy throughout the film. Buddy develops feelings for a fellow high-achieving Catholic classmate, Catherine, and they eventually become friends. Local criminal figure and sectarian rabble-rouser Billy Clanton approaches Pa demanding his involvement for the cause. When Pa refuses, he becomes aggressive and continues to incessantly approach Buddy. Meanwhile, the family struggles to pay off their accumulated debts. Pa dreams of emigrating to Sydney or Vancouver, a prospect met with distress from Ma. However, she can no longer deny the option of leaving Belfast as the conflict worsens and Pa is offered a promotion and housing deal in England from his employers. They attempt to discuss the matter with the boys, but Buddy breaks down at the thought of leaving. Buddy and local girl Moira attempt to steal chocolates from a sweatshop. This is the best part of the movie. From a sweet shop.
I was going to say from a sweatshop, huh?
Sweet shop. But the plan goes awry. When later questioned by the police, Buddy does not reveal his co-conspirators. Following this, Moira recruits Buddy into her local gang who participate in the looting of a supermarket. A reluctant Buddy is coerced into stealing a box of laundry detergent before he returns home and informs Ma of his activities. Ma berates him and drags both Buddy and Moira back to the ongoing looting in order to return the stolen items. Billy then
you gotta respect a woman who basically marches in and makes looters, violence, probably a few gunshots, holding her kids, and says, "Put this shit back."
That's some parenting for you.
Yeah.
Billy then appears and takes them as hostage, as leverage for his own escape. Pa, Will, and the army arrive at the scene to end the riot. This initiates a standoff with Billy, who attempts a shootout until Pa and Will manage to disarm him. Billy is then promptly arrested and swears retribution. Realizing they are no longer safe in Belfast, the family decides to leave for England before departing. Buddy bids farewell to Catherine. He later laments whether he could have pursued a future with her despite the fact that she was Catholic. Pa responds that it shouldn't make any difference, and as Granny watches, the family boards a bus headed for the airport. All right, Alexis, fire away. What do you think of this one?
You know, this Wikipedia entry also completely forgets to mention the death of the grandpa.
Yes, he does in fact pass away one point in the movie.
Near the end, right when they
ne- ne-
decide to leave, he dies.
yeah. He says something along the lines of, "Well, I'll be here when you get back," and it's like dies right after. Anyway, so yeah, this was really, really good. I enjoyed this picture. It's about the right length of time. I think 90 minutes is all you really needed to tell this. And I like the fact that there was this. The thing I liked about this movie, and I'll pitch it over back to you, is you take this really big, complicated historical struggle between these two groups of religious folks living in this area, and you boil it down so that you could see it from the perspective of this child who kind of gets it, but is still a child, and some of it's escaping him, the nuance of it all, and he's just trying to live his life. And that's why I think like the best scene in this movie was him stealing the Turkish delight with his cousin, just because it's like it was nice to see him doing kid stuff in the middle of all of this, and and that's the bottom line here, is that all any of these people wanted to do was live their life. And we have at least 2 or 3 different episodes of raucous violence interrupting all of that, and them still trying to maintain a semblance of normalcy. Your thoughts?
Pretty much, you're right on the money. We have this great scene where Ma talks about how she doesn't want to leave, not because, she thinks things will get better necessarily. You dropped your bone. You go get it. I'm not picking it up for you. Or she basically says, if we leave, then all that will be left is the nutters. And so she talks about how it's like, it's not necessarily she thinks things are going to get a bit better. It's more along the lines of she doesn't want to desert this land and just leave it for these people who are destroying everything.
Well, I think there are, people in a situation like that, and it's represented by the mom who was like, sure, we can leave, we can run, but is our home not worth fighting for? And how much should we run? At what point do you not stand and fight for what you believe in, for what's important to you? And that's a lot of what drives this movie, is you have people who are just like, this isn't worth it. It's not worth traumatizing our family, possibly getting killed because, they're blowing stuff up. I mean, like right in the beginning, when I was talking about car bombs before, they were using a detonation mechanism. In this particular case, they just literally lit the gas tank on fire and just rolled it down the road.
Basically turned it into a Molotov cocktail on wheels.
Right. And and credit to Kenneth Branagh and the special effects team. It looked awesome.
Yeah.
You and I have watched, we were joking about this earlier, you and I have watched a lot of, big time action movies with big special effects and everything going explodey. And and here you could see that there was a lot of care and craft and time put into that explosion so that it looked as devastating as it probably was. I mean, the attention to the glass falling and all of that, and the fires blooming out of the car, even for black and white, it looked gorgeous and Absolutely. It looked terrifying.
They did a really good job. This is one of the things I found appealing about this film, is that, yes, Belfast was going through an absolute nightmare at this time. People were being killed. People were being it was horrible. But Branagh gives such an appeal to this neighborhood. Everyone is so friendly to one another, with the exception of Billy Clanton, who is just a bully who's taking advantage of this ruckus to get what he wants. He's basically just a sociopath who now sees the fighting and is like, oh, cool, I can go beat shit up or beat people up and steal shit. And, I can just blame it on the violence,
It's a common enough thing when you're dissatisfied. And this is why I think this movie being made now is resonant, because, and I just talked about this with something else that I saw recently. There's a lot of reoccurring themes in what I've been reviewing lately, of dissatisfied, disenfranchised people finding a target to take all of their anger and frustration and impotence out on.
Exactly.
And so I think, while Belfast tells the story of this particular time and place in Ireland's history and the UK's history, it's a tale that's very resonant now of what we're going through here in the world, and particularly in America.
Very much. But again, the neighborhood that is portrayed in this movie by Kenneth Branagh is so appealing. Everyone knows everyone's name. Everyone is very friendly. Everyone gets along really well. And that is part of what Ma talks about. She says, if we leave, we're not going to know anyone. We know everyone here. And there is something really great about being in a place where you're on friendly terms with everyone.
Sure.
Belfast is going through hell, but there is such a beautiful light on this neighborhood, and this family that you understand why they don't necessarily want to leave. And I'd also like to add props to Jamie Dornan, who actually is quite a good actor when he's not playing a sociopathic sex addict.
Which show are you referring to?
50 Shades.
Oh, God, that's him?
Yeah. I have serious issues with the 50 Shades series, both the movies and the books, but we're not going to get into that here.
Yeah, leave that one for my wife, okay?
Gladly. But yeah, I actually didn't realize he was Irish.
Mm-hmm.
He is, and he was really good in this.
Well, look, and I don't want to tangent off in this, especially because, you know, you just said you don't want to talk about it, but also because I'm going to be talking about it at a different podcast. But just as a point of comparison, because people do get on the 50 Shades as being like terribly acted, terribly written, you know, just an abortion of a series, the worst thing to ever be captured on film. And he's not great in it. But I'll tell you, that apparently is not his fault, because he's a stellar actor. He is great in this. It's a very understated, very quiet performance, but I think it's what the character called for. And obviously, in the very capable hands of Kenneth Branagh, he can act very, very well. When he's in the hands of whatever toaster oven was directing the 50 Shades movies, apparently he can't pull, you know, a line reading out of his ass worth of shit.
It's very similar to the argument about Robert Pattinson being Batman versus, and it was like, oh, the dick from Twilight. It's like, Twilight was not Robert Pattinson's fault. No one could have done any better with what they were given for that role. You know, hell, we even gave Kristen Stewart props for her role in Spencer here not too long ago, plug, on a previous triple feature.
She's winning awards left and right for it. I mean, it's not like we were completely like out of the, I mean, the movie itself was this weirdo, artsy, upside down, mix of a movie, but she's stellar in it.
Yeah.
To your point.
Yeah, and Jamie Dornan, he is not at fault for the disaster that was 50 Shades. Again, we are not going on a tangent about what's wrong with that series, because I have dinner to make and I really don't want to be here for the next 20 hours.
No, I do. Last thing I want to bring up, and then we're going to call a close to this portion, move on to the next movie. Jude Hill as Buddy. You know, it's 50-50 whether or not you're going to get a child actor who doesn't take you completely out of the movie. And I thought he did a really lovely job as this character. I thought he was very sympathetic. My other favorite scene in this movie, just in terms of the drama, you know, and the acting that is on display, is when they're telling Buddy, when they're as a parent would do. This was very resonant with me, because I've kind of had to do this with my kids, where you're trying to like gauge how they're going to react to something. And so you're like, what if, just hypothetically, what if we did blah, blah, yakety schmackety? And then you see what they do. And so they're saying to him, hey, how would you think about moving to England? And he flips out, but it's not like, you know, the problem child kid way, or, you know, some obnoxious other kid where you don't have any sympathy for him. Like, he's having kind of a meltdown there, and you feel legitimately bad for him. And Buddy and Jude Hill played that scene to aplomb. He really nailed that performance.
Absolutely. The fact he talks about how he doesn't want to leave Belfast, and part of that is also we have that ongoing thing with him and Catherine, which was so adorable. I absolutely, one of my favorite scenes is when he gets up to the second seat. Okay, for the record, whatever teacher moves kids around based on who's doing the best, you are a sucky teacher.
It was the 60s. Leave her alone.
And it was horrible. Just, it's like, no, you do not do that. But yeah, the point is he wants to go up. He wants to do well enough to move up front.
Right.
Because Catherine is the top student in the class.
See,
and you get this
you pick at the teacher, but what a great motivator. You got the hots for some girl. She's sitting in the front row. Study your books and you can get there. See? Great motivation.
But I absolutely love it. You get this great scene. He gets the second scene and he looks over and you think he's daydreaming and looking at Catherine, and then and it's all slow-mo, and you think he's just gonna have this big smile on his face, and suddenly he looks over and you realize it's dawning on him, Catherine's not there. She's behind me. Someone else is there. What the hell? Oh my, this scene actually
I learned math for nothing.
This actually does have some really good laughs. I also like there's a little cut scene where Buddy is talking. I think he's talking to his grandpa about how he knows when his family doesn't have money. And you have this cut scene of I guess it's the landlord. coming in to collect, and he goes to answer the door, and Ma grabs him and yanks him back and hides him, and he wants to shout, "Nobody's home!" and she just covers his mouth.
Like 10 seconds here, but Lara McDonald as Moira was my other favorite character in this whole thing. She's fantastic, and she's such a little troublemaker and a rabble rouser. They have quite the Little Rascals thing going on, the two of them, and and it's so funny because like she has this thick Irish accent, and she's doing her line readings rather breathlessly. She's like, you got to, I'm gonna massacre this, but you got to steal something good, or we're not gonna let you in our gang. You don't understand. And it's like, I'm watching this. I'm like, who let her do that? It was like the joke that Christine
the
and
mascot from the Lucky Charms commercials was a better representation of Ireland than the travesty you just pulled.
Listen, lady, I'm not here to do impressions. I'm trying to say that last year when Christine and I did our review for St. Patrick's Day, our comic review, and at the end of it, we were doing an Amazon plug, and we were looking at like great Irish like compilations and whatnot, and they just got increasingly more insulting to Irish people. It kind of reminded me of that. It was just like at some point this crosses into parody. But look, she did a good job, and I'm sure Kenneth Branagh is not an idiot. I'm sure whatever he got out of her is what he was looking for. But every time she had a line reading, you're right. I kept thinking, oh, he stole my Lucky Charms, like, wow.
No, he stole your Turkish delight.
Nobody eats Turkish delight.
I've had Turkish delight. I don't really get the appeal from C.S. Lewis.
Fair enough. So anything else before, like real quickly, anything else? Because if not, we're gonna jump into a plug and then into the next movie.
Again, the craft of this was really good. I know we'll talk about the black and white aspect later. That's going to be a big part of this ending conversation. But I really love this one shot near the opening that is it's a repeated circle around Buddy. He's playing in the alley of his neighborhood, and the protesters are starting to come down, and he knows something's about to happen, but he's a kid and he has no idea what's about to happen. He's just like, something's wrong, but I don't know what it is. And we get this repeated pan around him where you can see the protesters starting to come, and you can see people on the street starting to go into their homes going, oh God, something's going down. And it's so well done. Again, I love Branagh as a director. I really like his style. All
right, I want to quick read. Part of the reason we're doing this again, this is one of our Oscar baity triple features. Accolades. At the 2021 Toronto International Film Festival, the film won the People's Choice Award. On October 11, 2021, it was announced that newcomer Jude Hill would be put forward in the Best Actor Award at the 94th Academy Awards in 2022, while remaining key cast members Katrina Balfe, Judi Dench, Jamie Dornan, and Ciarán Hinds have been entered into the Best Supporting Actress and Supporting Actor categories. Best Narrative Feature Award at the Middleburg Film Festival went to Belfast. Kenneth Branagh won a 2022 Golden Globe for Best Screenplay, and I think this is on the short list for a Best Picture nomination at the upcoming Oscars. Aside from Best Actor for Jude Hill, so we'll see. And I know it's got some stiff competition in that category.
Really hope Branagh gets the director nomination.
Yeah, me too. All right, I'll tell you what this film did not need. It did not need Grammarly, but however,
nice segue.
Thank you. For you listeners of Triple Feature, Grammarly is offering a free download of the Grammarly software. Grammarly's AI-powered products help people communicate more effectively. Grammarly helps you write mistake-free on Gmail, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and nearly anywhere else you write on the web. Grammarly corrects hundreds of grammar, punctuation, spelling mistakes while also catching contextual errors, improving your vocabulary, and suggesting style improvements. To download Grammarly today, go to getgrammarly.com/W2M Network. Again, that's getgrammarly.com/W2M Network to download Grammarly for free. In our next black and white movie that we're doing, that is also a highly touted by critics far and wide, and winner or nominee of many a film festival award, is Passing. Passing is a 2021 black and white drama film written, produced, and directed by Rebecca Hall in her feature directorial debut. It's based on a 1929 novel of the same name by Nella Larson, and the title refers to African Americans who had skin color light enough to be perceived as white, referred to as passing. It stars Tessa Thompson from every Radulich and Broadcasting Network's favorite movie, Ragnarok, Thor Ragnarok. It stars.
I was saying, once again, Pat and Roberts suddenly feel a chill go up their spine.
Ruth Negga, known for the television series Preacher and the film Loving. Andre Holland, Bill Camp, Gebegna Akanagbe, who's been in a bunch of stuff with David Simon, not just The Wire, as well as The Deuce, Antoinette
Bingo card
Crowe-Legacy,
check.
and Alexander Skarsgård. All right, so we'll just jump into the plot here so we can talk about this real quick. 1920s New York City, Irene Redfield, a light-skinned black woman living in Harlem, meets a childhood friend, Claire Blue, by a chance at a hotel dining room. While Irene is married to a black doctor, the also light-skinned Claire passes as white and has married a wealthy white man from Chicago named John, like you do. Claire invites Irene up to her hotel room so they can talk more openly. Claire explains that after her father died, she was raised by her 2 white aunts and married John very young. They are interrupted by John, who openly despises and degrades black people, unaware of his wife's or Irene's racial background because he's way dense.
Yeah, I can't help but feel that after every take of the scene, Alexander Skarsgård just walked off the set just going, oh my God, I just feel so dirty. Because it is an ugly scene.
Well, not only that, I mean, well, that's that time period, that's that character. I don't necessarily have an issue with that. I mean, people like you take a role, you play a racist every once in a while. It happens. That's not my issue. The issue is Tessa Thompson. I get the light skin thing, but her facial features, whatever. Like, how are you in that room? And you're like, yeah, sure. Tessa Thompson's white. Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's part of why this film was also shot in black and white. Actually, you want to stop scratching me? Part of the black and white choice was the fact that Rebecca Hall was horribly under budget for this. In fact, according to the page here, with less than a month before production was set to begin, she had to apply for 2 grants to cover the difference on the budget, just because she had so little money there for that. But it really does work well for that. And I think that's part of the appeal, is that by shooting it in black and white, yes, we know what Tessa Thompson looks like because we've seen her in so many other movies. But in black and white, it's fake,
To your point, and I want to continue with the plot synopsis, so I don't want to get too far off, but Ruth Negga, you can make that argument with. And I think, to your point, the black and white lends itself to you, if you don't know what she really looks like, thinking, oh yeah, this is a white woman. It works less well with Tessa Thompson. And it's not like Tessa Thompson does anything in that scene when he's there. When she's originally in the dining room and she's got the hat over her face, sure, you could make the argument she was obscuring her face so she could get away with it. But there's nothing in that room, and there's nothing going on with the light in that room that would make me think that if you were sitting across from Tessa Thompson, you wouldn't know she was black. Then that's the only reason why I made the joke about, what are you, dense? And I want to talk about this when we get to the craft, so I'm going to come back to this. But like, that lended a lot of tension to that scene because I thought he knew she was black, and then later on when he suddenly discovers, oh wait a minute, you're not white, I'm like, wow, woo. Just now catching up, are you? All right.
Yeah, I guess the idea is that he thinks that she is Greek, Spanish, Mediterranean, essentially.
I have met some people who absolutely, despite having olive or darker skin, you don't know if they're white, black, Native American, Hispanic. They could pass for all of them. I get it. I don't know if Tessa Thompson's one of those people, but that's, I guess, something we can discuss at length in a minute.
So we were actually joking about this with the Moon Knight trailer that came out, because we were talking about Oscar Isaac's cast as an Egyptian. And I said, he's one of those actors that has, we know what his ethnicity is, but he has a skin tone and hair that he could pass for so many different ethnicities. It's like, that's the same ballpark as Alfred Molina and Ben Kingsley. These are actors who could play so many different roles like that, and you wouldn't be able to tell.
Irene leaves the hotel angry with Claire and refuses to respond to Claire's letters. However, after Claire unexpectedly shows up at Irene's home and apologizes for the encounter, they rekindle their friendship. Claire, who wishes to associate with black people again, invites her to a dance party that Irene is organizing. Most of the guests at the party find Claire charming, including Irene's husband, Brian. While there, Irene reveals Claire's secret to her friend, novel writer Hugh Wentworth, who seems less impressed with Claire than are others. As time passes, Claire soon becomes involved in all aspects of Irene's life, joining Irene and Brian on all their outings. At first, Irene seems happy to have Claire around, but soon she becomes disillusioned with Claire and starts to grow dissatisfied with her presence. Brian, also dissatisfied, attempts to teach his and Irene's children about racism in America, as Irene refuses to move anywhere else. However, I'm starting to see a theme between these movies. However, Irene believes that the children are too young to learn about such things, inciting an argument between the two, further straining their marriage. After Brian invites Claire to a tea party from which Irene is perfectly excluded, Irene begins to suspect that Claire and Brian are having an affair. When out shopping with her friend Felice, who is unable to pass, Irene encounters John and hurries away as he begins to realize, oh no, she's not white, the truth about his wife's racial background. Irene tries to warn Claire, but decides against it when she is unable to reach her by phone. As Brian, Irene, and Claire are on their way to Felice's Christmas party on the top floor of the 7-story building, Irene asks Claire what she would do if John ever learned the truth. Claire replies that she would move back to Harlem to be with Irene, a response to which Irene finds troubling. During the party, Irene remains silent, avoiding other guests. She opens a large vertical window to smoke. Suddenly, John angrily forces himself into the apartment, demanding to see Claire, who remains calm, and then moves next to Irene by the window. John accuses her of being a dirty liar and lunges towards her, at which point Irene abruptly puts an arm across Claire's pelvis. Claire falls backwards out the window, but it's not made clear whether John pushed her or Irene pushed her or she committed suicide. The horror! All other guests rush outside, not knowing whether or not Claire is dead. After some hesitation, Irene slowly goes downstairs, where the police are questioning guests. Brian states that he believes John pushed Claire, but when he asked, Irene asserts that she believes the fall was an accident. The film ends with the police declaring death by misadventure, which is the name of my next hardcore band. Irene sobbing in Brian's arms and Claire's body being carried away by medics. All right, Alexis. I really like this movie. I liked it a lot. This spoke to me on a lot of different levels. I do enjoy a good movie that's a meditation on race, which is really what this is. Might be a little long. This comes in at just over an hour and a half, 99 minutes to be sure. I think this suffers from not nearly as much as some other ones that we've talked about as of late, but yet another one where, it's going to go to Netflix, so you don't have to worry about the length of the thing. This could use some tighter editing, I think. But other than that, I thought it was really a mastercraft. Another great use of the black and white filming technique and some absolutely, and I mean, if Ruth Negga doesn't get at least a nomination for Best Actress in a feature, I don't know who does. She was the high point of this thing. Her line delivery was utterly amazing. That the way she captured the speaking style of that era of those folks, it was like sing-songy. It was music to my ears. What did you think?
This was definitely my favorite of all the movies that we watched. There is such a great meditation on the idea of the race, not only from the way that Renée sees Claire, but also the way Renée sees Black people around her. She obviously has a little bit of a thing against Claire as it starts going, because I think she's jealous of her, or maybe a little resentful that she can pass herself off so easily as white. And, Renée talks about how she wants to be back amongst her people, as it were. And Claire has always been around, other Black people, and she's just, I think she's a little perturbed at Claire. I feel like she basically looks at her and goes, "You've turned your back on us." But at the same time, it's clear that Renée benefits from passing. We have the opening scene of her shopping and getting this seat at this beautiful restaurant and everything. And I'm not going to lie, I am not 100% familiar on racism in 1920s in New York. I do not know how prevalent it was, especially since we know that she is married to a doctor. She is dressed in very fine clothing. So it's not a case of she's Black and poor. She's Black and she has a decent amount of money. She's got a freaking maid working in their house, taking care of their 2 boys.
There was a Black wealth class, the part of during the Roaring 20s and like the Harlem Renaissance and all of that. There was a moneyed Black class, but you still can't get away from the fact that it was the early 20th century and whites still hated Blacks by and large. That was a big part of it. But
exactly.
But again, if you lived in an enclave of mostly African American people, again, the whites don't go to Harlem, the Blacks don't leave Harlem. Everyone, it's kind of a separate but equal situation going on.
But yeah, like I said, you get the idea that she's benefiting. We have the scenes between her and her husband. The scene with her and her husband talking about there was a lynching in the news, and her husband wants to tell their two boys about what happened. And she says, no, they don't need to know about it. And you get the idea that it's not just that she's being protective of her two sons. She doesn't want to scare them. She doesn't want to freak them out. But also it's the fact that I don't think she has really experienced the kind of horror that so many Black people have gone through. And it's clear her husband, who has much darker skin, is relating to that a little bit more. And the two sons, they have very dark skin. They can't pass. So you get this concept that maybe she's in a little bit of a denial herself about how things are. So while she is very judgmental against Claire, she's not exactly totally happy with herself either. You get a great line earlier where she talks about how she says she's satisfied with where she is, but I don't think she is.
The movie asks the question that Black people have been discussing for millennia, but let's just go with the last 100 years, is how do you want to deal with white people in this world? Do you want to just live separately from them and be Black and hang on to your identity and, just hope, the white people don't come across the tracks as they have want to do over the past 100 years and cause mischief? Or do you want to try to go along to get along, somehow operate within their society and lose your entire sense of self? And so you have Tessa Thompson's character in Irene, who has, made the decision that, hey, I just want to be Black and live among Black people. And, I will pass when necessary because I got to get things done. But for the most part, I will make a go of it. Like she has the one writer friend that talks about in the plot synopsis. She has a writer friend that she gets on with, and they're able to sort of talk to each other as equals. But I think, deep down inside, she's like, I'd rather not be bothered.
Well, even there's a couple of times where he says a few things and you can tell she's just kind of like, yeah, you're white and you're ignorant, whatever. It's not that he is very passively racist. He is not anti-Black. He is not
right.
But he is not.
He is very of the time.
Yes. And he doesn't think about some of these things he's saying.
And it's so funny because I feel like the world we're living in right now is so lacking in nuance, where you can have somebody who absolutely can appreciate the Black person while still having negative feelings about the Black race in general, and just sort of forgetting that the person is a part of that race. And so he very much appreciates Tessa Thompson and what she does and what she brings to the table and treats her basically as an equal, but can't break himself of the habit of she's part of the Black race that he doesn't have tremendously great feelings about. But getting over to Claire, Claire kind of threw in the towel. And Claire talks about how her, she was raised by two white aunts and she married a white man. And she sort of learned the game early on. If I can pass myself off as white, I can get so much more in this world and I can get so much further ahead. And all it'll cost me is my soul. And that's the great motivator of her in this movie, is that after having sold her soul, she's trying to reclaim it, but in doing so, she is causing harm to Irene. She sort of shattered this neat little tightly wound kept world. You brought up the conversation, and I want to address it now before this conversation gets too unwieldy or off the rails. And you and I talked about it offline. There's a great conversation in the movie about, do we or do we not talk about American racism and lynchings and whatnot with our children? And whether or not that resonates with you personally, on the specifics of the incident, certainly I think most people can relate to the idea of, at what point do you start to tell your children, and whether it's your own biological children or nieces or nephews or, kids you teach, whatever, brothers, sisters that might be really young, about the horrors of the world. And, there's always this conversation that takes place about whether or not, should kids grow up too soon? Should kids hold on to their youth for as long as possible? The belief is wait until they get 15, 16, 17, 18 before you start telling them that the world is crap. And then, the counter argument is better to prepare them early. This isn't going away, and it's only going to be more of an uphill slog later on. And that is the conversation that Irene and her husband are having. And the husband's like, look, can we not ignore the fact that black people get hung from trees in this country, and that's a very real thing, and they need to be aware of it, because they could be a part of the moneyed class and just, properly shined shoes and fine tailored suits and nice high paying jobs, and the minute a white woman says he did blah blah yakety schmackety in an elevator, I'm gonna hang him and burn down the street. And that's
Pretty
the
much.
reality they're living in the 20s of in Harlem.
This is not, again, we're not going to talk about this too much, because we agreed that this, again, we don't want to go too deep and too long about this conversation.
No, I'm addressing that it was there, though.
But, I look at conversations like that, and I remember as a kid when we learned about the Holocaust.
Mm-hmm.
And I was learning about the Holocaust I think we first started learning about it in middle school.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about what happened in the concentration camps, and I was terrified.
Mm-hmm.
I was shocked. I remember going home and feeling so just...
Hey, real quick, if you really want a horrifying experience, watch the last 2 episodes of Band of Brothers. If you're interested in the Holocaust and a good cry. Please continue.
I thought you were about to make a joke there. Nice
Nope.
save.
No. Andrew and I had a lengthy conversation about it. It is horrifying.
I believe you. And yeah, part of me wonders what would have happened if I had learned about that at a later age. But at the same time, we just reviewed not too long ago the HBO Watchmen series, which starts off with the Tulsa race riots, which were not taught to me at all.
Not taught to anyone. You might get it in college.
And I looked it up afterwards. I was like, wait, this was real? And I felt terrible. I'm like, why wasn't this taught? Why didn't we learn about this? So the fact is that it is scary, but I do believe that we need to prepare our children for the horrors, and we need to, you don't want to tell them in elementary school, but I do side with the father in this.
Yeah. That was not a tremendously sympathetic scene for the Tessa Thompson character, who for the most part in this movie, her perspective is the one that I'm with. I can see Claire sort of shattering Irene's reality and being an agent of chaos there. And so I'm cheering for Irene for most of this picture to try to separate herself from here, see her for the agent of chaos that she is, and try to, put a wall between them. And, and when she goes out the window, there really is a question of, did Irene push her? Did Irene, shove her in the way of John so that John pushes her out the window accidentally, which he might not have had she not touched her? Like, you don't know, but there is this twinge of like, this woman had it coming, so to speak, in that she pushed Irene into this really terrible position with all of her behaviors, not the least of which she thought she was, her and John were having an affair together. So, not John, her and the husband. Now
the doctor, Irene's husband.
Yeah, I might be mixing up characters now. Okay, yeah. So Alexander Skarsgård is John, and then Andre is Brian. That's what I was referring to. She thinks that Claire and Brian are having an affair, and while look, no one's wishing murder on anybody, you can certainly see where she might have a lapse in judgment based on the stress of the situation there. So. I really, really liked Passing. I don't want to spend too much longer on this, but I liked Passing. I thought that, of the 3 of these, I think this was the most resonant and probably the best made, other than the length of it. I think Tessa Thompson and Nella, I keep doing her name wrong.
Ruth Negga.
Ruth Negga did an outstanding job, and again, Ruth Negga acts. Tessa Thompson's an outstanding actress, and Ruth Negga, I thought, actually acted like circles around her. She is phenomenal, but let's not lose sight of the fact that she's kind of the villain in this thing.
It is also interesting. I want to talk about the fact that this is Rebecca Hall's directorial debut. Most people, at least I would say our audience, will know Rebecca Hall is playing Maya Henson in Iron Man 3. But what a lot of people don't know is that she is actually a quarter black. She looks completely white. She's got brown hair. Her father is mixed race and her mother is Dutch. She's apparently a direct descendant of a Revolutionary War veteran named Basabille Norman, a free black man.
Mm-hmm.
So I find it very interesting. So she kind of does have a bit of a knowledge about passing, the idea that she grew up with black roots, but to the untrained eye, she's 100% white.
Yeah, I know her from one of the Godzilla movies, Godzilla versus
Oh,
Kong.
right. She was in that too.
Yeah, knocked me over with a teaspoon. I had no idea she was at all black in any way, shape, or form. She looks as white as the day is long.
Exactly. So she was an interesting choice. I do like her style, although I'm going to admit there are several scenes that go out of focus. I don't really get the point of those scenes, and frankly, I wasn't a huge fan of them.
Okay, I mean that's fair. There's no accolades section here. Is up. Wait, hang on, I take that back. The film had its world premiere at the 2021 Sundance Film Festival on January 30th, 2021, and it became a limited theatrical release on October 27th, 2021, prior to streaming on Netflix on November 10th. It received acclaim from critics who praised Hall's screenplay and direction and performances of Thompson and Nega. The film was named one of the top 10 films of 2021 by the African American Film Critics Association. For her performance, Nega was nominated for the Golden Globe. Good for her, as she deserves it. And the Screen Actors Guild Award in the category of Best Supporting Actress. The only thing I'm going to complain about, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, I'm about to do a plug. The only thing I'm going to complain about, Alexis, don't you understand, is that you're talking about the roaring 20s. You know what I mean? This is the jazz scene, man. And this movie was like, outside of maybe a few snippets here and there, utterly devoid of a soundtrack that really would have livened the picture up. I wish we could have gotten more of the 1920s, the roaring 20s jazz sound of that era. Let's get some Count Basie in there and whatnot. Let's get some real music of that era. And while it's not there, do you know where you can find said music?
Tell me.
I will. We happen to be giving away a free 30-day trial of the Amazon Music Unlimited service, where you can hear music from the 20s, the 40s, the 60s, the 80s, and other decades that are in even numbers. There's a link here at getamazonmusic.com/W2M Network. Again, it's getamazonmusic.com/W2M Network for a free 30-day trial of the Amazon Music Unlimited service. You can try it out for that 30 days, as we were saying. You can like it, you keep it. You can pay the monthly fee. It's commiserate with Spotify and Apple Music. You can cancel it at any time. No fuss, no muss. All right. Come on, Alexis. Come on. Come on.
You can talk mostly about this film because, yeah, confession, folks, I fell asleep through this one.
This is where we lost Alexis. She fell off the yellow brick road and into the poppy field. All right. So the next one is Come On, a 2021 black and white drama film, as these all are, which was written and directed by Mike Mills. Mike Mills, you might know from his other independent films, Beginners, 20th Century Woman, which he won nominated for an Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay. It stars Joaquin Phoenix, Gabby Hoffman, Scott McNairy, Molly Webster, Jabuki Young White, and Woody Norman. The film had its world premiere at the 48th Telluride Film Festival on September 2nd, 2021, and was released in limited theaters on November 19, 2021 by A24. By the way, just as an aside, if you're looking for two studios that put out some truly interesting and wonderful and bizarre pictures, look no further than A24 and Neon. These have been some of my favorite movies of the past year, from Zola to Titan to, just all these nutty ass pictures. I have truly, I think Lamb was one of them. All of these artsy fartsy movies that I've been forcing on everybody have come from either Neon or A24. Just truly outstanding stuff here. So they're now my go-tos for when I need something, not Marvel. It has received acclaim from critics with praise for its performances, direction, and cinematography. So skipping right into the plot synopsis. Johnny is a radio journalist traveling the country with his producing partners, interviewing children about their lives and their thoughts for the future. While in Detroit, he calls his sister Viv. They had not spoken for the past year since their mother's death from dementia. Viv asks Johnny if he can come to Los Angeles and watch her 9-year-old son, Jesse, as she has to travel to Oakland to care for her estranged husband, Paul, struggling with mental illness. Johnny agrees, and he and Jesse quickly forge a bond. Despite Jesse's obnoxious personality, I thought that he had mental illness too. I had to go back and read that.
Yeah, no kidding. What I saw very briefly, I was just like, so this child is autistic or something, right?
Yeah, I honestly thought, because like sometimes I'm watching these, I got Chris Bailey who needs a TikTok apology. Things are always happening in my world, so I don't always pay the closest attention when I'm watching these things. And I'm watching this one, and I'm seeing how the kid behaves, and I'm like, does he have some sort of developmental disorder? Like, nope, he's just an asshole. Okay, terrific. So moving on. And unwillingness to talk about his own life, says Johnny. Viv experiences difficulties dealing with Paul, who has to stay longer than expected in Oakland, while Johnny is pressured by his partners to return to work. Johnny convinces Viv to let him take Jesse with him back to New York City. Jesse increasingly gets on Johnny's nerves, and Johnny eventually snaps at Jesse, scaring him.
That was the point that I fell asleep.
Okay. He later apologizes at Viv's urging. He shows Jesse how to operate his audio equipment and let him come along to more interviews with children. Jesse continues to ask Johnny questions about his personal life and his relationship with Viv. It is revealed that Johnny and Viv fought over their mother's deathbed, while differing opinions on how to care for her, and that Johnny was once in a long-term relationship with a woman whom he still loves. Jesse gets homesick, and he yearns to see his mother, while Johnny is increasingly pressured to return to the road and resume work. Johnny buys him a plane ticket back to L.A., but en route, Jesse requests to stop and use the bathroom, locking himself in. As a parent, you must know that that's the oldest trick in the book, and refusing to leave until Johnny relents and lets him stay. Johnny takes Jesse to New Orleans as the crew continues to interview children. Jesse begins to ask questions about his father and what is wrong with him, and expresses fear that he will grow up to have the same problems himself. Johnny reassures Jesse that this will not happen, as Viv has taught him how to deal with his emotions in a healthier way. Viv later calls and says that Paul has accepted treatment and is doing much better, and the doctors are letting him come home. Johnny shares the good news with Jesse, who suddenly runs away through a park in fear. Johnny catches up and tells him it's okay that he is not happy. They scream together like you do in frustration until Jesse begins laughing. Viv flies to New Orleans to pick up Jesse and take him back to Los Angeles. Johnny promises to stay in touch with both of them. Johnny later sends Jesse a voice recording recounting everything that happened on their trip, as Jesse had requested, so that he does not forget the experience. I really like this movie. Like, I get it. If you watch these like 3 in a row, this one might not necessarily retain your attention, but as a story about a guy coming to grips with his own, failings of personality and whatnot, and sort of learning on the fly to be a father, that the father, son, uncle, nephew, brothers sort of male bonding thing really, really resonated with me. I get that might not be everyone's cup of tea. I think Joaquin Phoenix, everyone looks at Joker and it's like, oh my God, what a great actor. Hang on. Joaquin Phoenix was a perfectly fine actor before Joker. He went on to do some pretty amazing stuff well after Joker, and this is one of them. He really, as sort of an average everyday guy doing a thing and having to deal with this child, he really creates a very memorable character, in my opinion, here. The kid himself, I think, did a very fine job too of playing an obnoxious child. And I was there for the journey. It's a talky movie. These are all talky movies. There's not a lot of action in any of them. But again, if you're there for it, if you're looking for a talky drama, that speaks to the concepts of parenting and bonding and getting over your own personal traumas and mental, the fear that you may be as mentally ill as your father, things of that nature. The guilt and trauma of dealing with, a parent going through dementia on their deathbed. Then I think you'll enjoy this feature. If none of those things are appealing to you, then stay as far away from this one as possible, because there's nothing else about it that I could sell somebody on. It's like, you'll enjoy the action. There's no action. It's a lot of talking. My one criticism of this movie, and I'll pass it over to you just if you have any thoughts at all on it. My one criticism of this movie is the bit where he's interviewing kids is fine in the beginning, and that they go back to it once or twice would have been okay. They go back to it far too often, and it kind of took me out of the narrative. I was very much interested in what Joaquin Phoenix and this kid were doing. I don't really care what these rambling kids were saying after about the first 2 or 3 times they did that. Like, we get it. We get what you're doing. I don't think it lended itself to the narrative in any way. So those are my thoughts on Come On, Come On. For what you saw of it, what did you think?
It was a well-done movie from what I saw, but frankly, it was kind of dull. So not to mention, this film has an interesting style but kind of made it a little more boring for me, in which many of the scenes are recounted by Johnny as he's recording. And it kind of felt like somebody was reading a storybook, to be perfectly frank.
To your point, and I think this is a valid one, the first two movies I think make good use of the black and white film style. I don't know why this one was shot in black and white. I don't know what it added to the feature.
Yeah, that's one of the things I did want to talk about was, would these films have been better or worse if they were not shot in black and white? Passing the black and white was so good and added so much to it.
That is a critical element of that movie. I don't think you can do it without it.
Belfast, again, it was a really stylistic choice to have the black and white be the past, the color being the future, and the hope for the future, as we see with the films. I don't know why this movie was shot in black and white. I don't get it. The music was all very it was all, I think it was mostly like public domain classical music, and it's just very easy to kind of drift off to it, for a lack of better terms. You know, I was watching it and I was a little intrigued by what was going on, but it's just, I don't know. I don't want to say it's soothing, but it's one of those films that you can have on in the background and really not take notice of.
Yeah, I almost think that filming it in black and white did the film a disservice. I think you said you've been to New York City. I know you said you've lived in London for a period of time. You have seen some big cities. Part of the attraction of the city is how vibrant and colorful they can be, despite they're made of concrete and steel. But I mean, the New York City, the metropolitan area, is a character in and of itself, and I think you lose that when you go to black and white. You don't see how rich the color is there. Like, compare that with West Side Story and how Steven Spielberg shot that part of New York City, and how, despite the fact that it was a lot of grays, how vibrant the color was. Also contrast that with Belfast, where despite the fact that it was shot in black and white, he somehow created a vibrant color palette with just black and white. They practically shine and glow in that movie. As opposed
very much. It's extremely, I don't want to use this term lightly, but it seems like it's extremely high definition black and white.
Yes, as opposed to this one, which feels like it's 100 years old. And they just sort of restored footage from, that was shot on reels back in like 1950.
And I cannot find a single reason why this was black and white, other than somebody just said they thought it would look cool. Yeah. I can't find anyone saying it was a budgetary reason. It was a symbolic reason. It was an homage to another film or to another style. And that really does this film a disservice. I'm not going to lie. I also really didn't get a lot from Johnny's job as a radio journalist. I get that he's traveling across the country and interviewing children, but I don't really get what it's for.
Because children say the darndest things.
That's
half the reason I have my son on here. Like, come on, be funny.
Well, it doesn't say what. No, I'm just saying he doesn't say who he works for, right, where these audio recordings are going to end up.
To your point, I just thought he was a documentary filmmaker. Like that he's a radio journalist. I was like, that's not clear in the movie at all. I got that when I read the plot synopsis, and it surprised me because I just thought he was shooting documentary footage.
Yeah, I mean, we get all these scenes of them getting just background noise, recording kids playing at the park and on the beach and near the trains. And those are kind of cool scenes, and I do like the scenes of him showing Jesse how to work the audio equipment. I thought that was kind of cool. But there's just not a lot to really grab your attention. And yeah, Jesse's personality, as it were, I thought he was autistic, but some of the stuff he says, I'm just like, and why am I supposed to be interested in this kid? You get this bizarre scene where he just talking about, it's like, what was my mom like when she was a kid? I heard she got in trouble a lot. I learned she had an abortion. It's like, hi.
So you have a sister. I have 2 kids. We are not utterly inexperienced with how children communicate. My wife is a teacher, and so I hear those stories. I felt his presentation was very truthful in how kids talk. I mean, it wasn't any less obnoxious, or anything like that. He does think, like, he locks himself in the bathroom at one point because he's not getting attention from Johnny. He hides in an alley, and then and boy, have I been there, where you turn around, your kid's gone, and you're in a crowded street, and you don't know where they are, and suddenly you're sweating a gallon of sweat. You're afraid you've lost your child forever. Like to me, I can forgive a lot of Jesse's character because I feel like I've seen 1,000,001 kids act that way, and communicate that way, and say, both of my children can be a bit rambling at times, and I have to be like, I'm gonna need you to get to a point. So just find a point and get there. I don't want them to turn into adults who can't get to a point in less than 20 minutes. Anyway, so anything else about come on? If not, we'll draw to a close.
Again, I slept through too much of this.
Dude,
It is interesting to see Gabby Hoffman back in movies. She was a former child actor. We saw her in Sleepless in Seattle, Field of Dreams when she was a kid. But I'm not going to lie, her roles as a teenager were very lacking. I'm embarrassed to admit I've seen the movie Volcano, which she was in.
Volcano is awesome. Shut your face. Volcano is fantastic.
I had to watch it with a friend who was a science teacher, and he basically made me watch it because he said, I'm putting together a study for my students on how this is not scientifically accurate. To which I said,
nobody went to that movie for scientific accuracy. They wanted to see a volcano explode.
Yeah, to which I'm watching the movie going, okay, here's something that's not scientifically accurate. No human being acts like she does.
All right. Well, folks, that's our triple feature. Our last Oscar bait triple feature here on the Radulich Broadcasting Network, at least for this year. However, this is not the last time you'll see Alexis, at least in the month of February. Let's go ahead and pull up your schedule here, Alexis. February 10th, we will be doing the Looney Tunes season 4 from HBO Max, and then we're going to tag on there the Looney Tunes Cartoons Valentine's Extravaganza. February 21st, it'll be her, Alexis, Hejna, and a host of others doing the Book of Boba Fett season 1. Alexis Hejna will be on her first Damn You Hollywood, I think, for the year. She wants to come and talk about Uncharted, based on the PlayStation game. So we'll see you then. And then she's got a double shot on February 24th, a noon and a 10 o'clock show. You're like a comedian. You get the early show and the late show. So at her request, at her behest, we are doing the Cuphead show, season 1. And then her and Jason Teasley are going to dance with their eagles for your viewing pleasure as we talk John Cena's Peacemaker, apparently the feel-good hit of the year. So that's what's coming up for Alexis in February. As far as the rest of the week goes, yesterday, Andrew and Evan and I talked Masters of the Universe. Earlier today, we have a re-airing of Sean and I putting Halle Berry's Catwoman on trial, which was a grand old time. Tomorrow, we've got a review of Battleby, Circus of Doom, plus re-airs of our Damn You Hollywood for the Motley Crue movie, The Dirt, plus the Motley Crue soundtrack to The Dirt review. Pat will be back. We missed the Four Kings of Boxing in January, so we're going to do 2 here in the month of February. First up is we're back to talking about Roberto Duran. He damn near got killed by Tommy Hearns, but he also fought Marvin Hagler in a fight for the ages. We'll talk about both of those. On Friday, we've got a re-airing of Corn the Nothing, plus a re-airing of an alternative commentary for Keith Thurman versus Josecito Lopez, as Keith Thurman will be fighting Saturday night. We'll also re-air his fight with Manny Pacquiao. My son, the fastest rising star of the Radulich Broadcasting Network panelists, and I will be doing a special Damn You Hollywood for Hotel Transylvania 4, Transformania, and the Ice Age, The Adventures of Buck Wild.
Better enjoy the old Ice Age movies because we're getting no more Scrat.
Oh, is that a fact?
Oh, you didn't hear? They lost the rights to it. There was a decades-long lawsuit with a woman who claimed that she designed Scrat.
Okay.
She finally won.
I saw something like that, but I don't care about the Ice Age movies or that character. So I was like, all right, cool, whatevs. Yay for lawsuits.
I like the first Ice Age movie. It's on Disney Plus now. I actually like having that on the background. It still makes me laugh.
Yeah, my son's been enjoying them. He's been binging the whole thing in preparation for this. But and they were the ones I've seen were cute, but they don't stick. In any case, Keith Thurman and Mario Barrios will be fighting on a Fox pay-per-view Saturday night, and I will be joined by Dan Lasby for an alternative commentary. And then ending the week that was Dave Wright will be joining me to do Gretzko season 4. We won't be doing a full podcast, but my son and I are going to go see Jackass Forever. So look for a 3-minute TikTok review as we hoot and howl and laugh hysterically for 3 minutes on TikTok about Jackass Forever. Sure to be the feel-good hit of springtime here in 2022. And that's all my plugs. What do you got, sister?
Make sure you show your son the list of injuries that Johnny Knoxville accumulated while making this movie, okay?
My son loved the first Jackass movie, just thought it was hysterical. But he actually said to me, he was like, yeah, I would never do this stuff. It's just fun to laugh at idiots hurting themselves. I was like, yeah. You're a smart child.
Yeah, apparently they actually released a list of everything that Johnny Knoxville got, and it's like, how is this man able to walk, let alone breathe, without something stuck in his chest?
Yeah, he's going to be interesting in the next 10 to 20 years.
No kidding. All right. Well, speaking of the Book of Boba Fett review coming up, I am also going to be discussing that on the MCU's Bleeding Edge. We're doing an episode-by-episode weekly review. We just talked about episode 1 last week. This Friday, we're going to be talking about episode 2. I am moderating these discussions, having a lot of fun talking about that. We also just put up here on the Radulich and Broadcasting Network our January edition of Tripped Up Trivia, in keeping with the movie Uncharted that's coming out. The theme was video games. Our next edition that's going to be, I believe, going to be airing on February 22nd. If I'm remembering the calendar right for once.
27th.
Thank you. I don't have the calendar in front of me.
Nope, I got you.
Is going to be everything related to The Dark Knight. It is entirely Batman themed. This is in theme with the upcoming Robert Pattinson Batman film. It's going to be a lot of fun looking at that. So we are still looking for contestants. If you think your knowledge of The Dark Knight eclipses our own, then please get a hold of us. You can find us on either Twitter or Facebook. Let us know that you want to play. And other than, yes, me selling my, most of my month to Mark for
1 week.
Okay, selling a week of February to Mark to discuss God knows how much stuff. My personal plugs for Honeysuckle Rose Creations, where fashion meets fandom at the intersection of geek and chic. We are. I'm sorry. I thought you were going to pull up the website. I'm sorry.
Oh, am I supposed to do that every time? Okay, hang on.
You don't have to, but you've been doing it almost every time, so I thought you were going to do it
every time you've asked.
Sorry.
I actually thought about it. I was like, does she want me to do that? It'll be fine. It'll be fine.
Sorry. But yes, we are actually getting a lot of orders coming in for Valentine's Day. Folks, if you are looking for the perfect geeky romantic gift for your nerdy loved one, go ahead and hit us up on our shops. You can find us on Etsy and Handmade at Amazon. As always, you can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hallelujah, our Instagram page is finally back up, but I am still rebuilding it from the base up, since our old one had to get deleted thanks to hackers. Yep, there we go. That's our Handmade at Amazon shops. You can see we got anything you could possibly want for your nerdy loved ones. Ignore the Maxwell's and the organic oils. That's not us. I don't know why that crap keeps popping up whenever you search my stuff.
It's not my fault. I clicked your link.
No, I know. It happens whenever I'm trying to pull up my own damn links. Same thing. It is so annoying.
Okay.
All right. We are going to be getting ready to go on the road here next month. Finally, can't wait to get back on the road. I miss traveling. First convention of the year is the Lexington Toy and Comic and Toy Con. This is our first time going there, but this is a huge show. It is a 4-day event. I am really excited to be working that. So happy to finally be in there. After that, Planet Comic Con is coming up here in April in Kansas City. We are always there for that one. We are actually doing something a little different for that show because we are going to be splitting the table with somebody. Local author Aaron Hollingsworth is going to be working with us, and he is going to be selling his books on our table as well. So if you're interested in nerdy jewelry or some really awesome reading material, please be sure to stop on by at Planet Comic Con and come see us. So again, that's Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic.
All right, folks, thank you for joining us here on Triple Feature. She's Alexis Hejna. I'm Mark Radulich. Be well, be safe, and behave. Let's do that again. I'm on.